The Black Phone is not the kind of movie that demands a sequel, but the writer-director team behind it, Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill, are passionate filmmakers who often draw from their own life experience to inform their work. I'm sure most filmmakers do that to an extent, but they are very explicit about it. In fact, Derrickson originally wanted to make a semi-autobiographical film before he combined the idea with an adaptation of the Black Phone short story, and that's how the first movie came about. So I definitely went into Black Phone 2 with an open mind, not to mention the idea for the sequel was pitched by Joe Hill himself, who wrote the original short story. Joe Hill, by the way, the pseudonym for Joseph King, Stephen King's son. Oh, and his pitch? Well, for that, I have to spoil the first Black Phone. Leave the video now if you haven't seen it. So, that pitch. What if the next dead person who calls Finney on the phone is the grabber in hell? That's a pitch that definitely gets my attention. Now, because this movie is still in theaters, I'm gonna attempt to keep this a little higher level than usual. Once it's out on digital and all the footage is available, I might give it my typical, more detailed, explained treatment. If you need a reminder on what happened in the first movie, check out my breakdown. Otherwise, let's talk The Black Phone 2 with full spoilers. If you're deciding whether or not to see the movie and just want my spoiler-free yay or nay, I'd say if you like the first one and feel invested in the characters Finney and Gwen, I recommend seeing the sequel and making up your own mind about it. Now, your final spoiler warning before we go full steam ahead. It's been 4 years since the events of the first movie, putting us now in 1982. Finney is in a dark, angry place, regularly beating up other students when they give him an excuse. Gwen can see he's still haunted by what happened and tries her best to help him move on. The brother and sister are once again played by Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw. Rounding out the cast is Robin. I thought he died in the first movie. This is bullshit. Whoa, calm down. That's not Robin, it's Ernesto, his younger brother, played by the same actor, Miguel Mora. I actually appreciated that. He was great as Robin in the first movie, but as one of the grabber victims early on, he didn't get a whole lot of screen time, which also makes it easier to buy him as a new character. Jeremy Davies is back as Finney and Gwen's father. He's trying to turn a new leaf. I like how that's revealed subtly at first. We see him grab a drink from the fridge, one that isn't a beer, and he seems a lot kinder to his children. We also can't help but notice Finney is turning into his father. Not this new, nicer dad, but the old one, the angry one. Where his father numbed the pain with alcohol, Finney opts for dope. And where his father took the anger out on his kids, Finney takes it out on the other kids at school. As for Gwen, she takes more after her mother, including the dreams. Yes, she still has those pesky dreams of things that happened or will happen, whispers from the dead. In this movie, Derrickson and Cargill take a note from their previous work, Sinister, where they proved Super 8 is creepy. Here they use it to film Gwen's dream sequences, and that really helps to differentiate the dreams from reality, something that becomes important as the two worlds often overlap in this movie. Finney still gets phone calls, specifically on broken phones, ones that are out of order, but if he picks up, it's only to say he isn't interested. I can't help you. Gwen gets a call too, in her dreams. In her Super 8 world, she heads to the grabber's old house and answers the black phone in his basement. Through it, as though the phone lines have traveled through time, she talks to her mom, back when she was young and still alive, a counselor at the Alpine Lake youth camp. Gwen's mom talks about her own dreams of young ghost boys underwater, trapped under ice, scratching numbers into that ice. That's how she got this phone number. Gwen has also been having dreams of those boys, except for her, they've been scratching letters. Gwen also dreams of the kids' actual murders. The movie doesn't linger, but it does provide flashes of the violence, which was left mostly off-screen in the first movie. Derrickson talked about this choice with Bloody Disgusting, saying, "That's reflective of the change of a genre, really. I think The Black Phone is a supernatural thriller. This is a horror film. I think that's a coming-of-age supernatural thriller with middle school kids. This is a high school horror film. The literal changing of genres, in my opinion, merited a significant stylistic shift. They're made in very, very different ways, and the through line of the characters, but the look of the movies doesn't have much in common at all. That felt appropriate to me. Facing an undead killer from hell should be a frightening affair. As much as Finney wants to ignore the calls he gets, Gwen is insistent upon listening to her dreams. So, she decides they'll go to that youth camp, becoming counselors in training. We've seen a lot of summer camp horror movies. Winter camps are a bit more unique and offer unique opportunities to further the sense of isolation. The Black Phone 2 is a more stylistic movie than its predecessor, something enabled by getting out of the basement and enhanced by the winter setting. Hearing Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall as they drive through a storm in the night, while Finney runs ahead of the car since they can hardly see out of the windshield. It feels dangerous and like they're driving into another reality. It's also an appropriate song for Finney, who, like Pink, the character on Pink Floyd's album The Wall, has built an emotional wall around himself, choosing isolation and numbness over facing his trauma. They arrive at the camp to find out camp is canceled. With the blizzard, there are too many road closures, and they're the only ones who didn't get the call in time. Really? Honestly, that felt a little convenient to me. I appreciated at first how this movie doesn't seem concerned with recreating the feel of the original, like so many horror sequels are apt to do. Instead, it follows the characters in their natural evolution, wherever it takes the movie. This was a moment where I could feel the hands of the filmmakers, forcing us back into an isolated scenario. The first movie was mostly relegated to a basement, so how do we get the characters stuck this time? The only other people in the campgrounds are Armando, his niece Mustang, and a couple of employees, Kenneth and Barbara. Also, wouldn't you know it, there's a phone booth there with an old broken phone, the one Gwen's mother called from years earlier. Their first night, Gwen is already having nightmares of 3 boys we'll soon learn were murdered here years ago. The nightmares are violent, including a kid who has a window shut on his head, basically cutting it in half, and one half ends up on the ground. But since he's basically a ghost, it doesn't kill him, so you just see this chunk of head on the ground with a wide eye, looking around like it's suffering. And the ringing phone becomes too much to ignore. As Joe Hill promised, it's the grabber in hell. He tells Finney,
"Tonight, hell freezes over."
Look, the movie is still in theaters, so I'm pretty limited in the clips I can use, and it's not far off. What he really says is, hell isn't flames, Finney, it's ice. If that reminds you of Dante's Inferno, where it's revealed in the 9th circle of hell, sinners are encased in ice. That's no mistake. Derrickson told Den of Geek, the Dante reference is really the thing. I love Dante's book. I've read the whole Divine Comedy, but the Inferno is really the part people gawk over. And I think the idea of the 9th circle of hell being ice, where the worst of the worst are, they are the betrayers. And there is something about the grabber being a betrayer to the kids, to his brother, and being the worst kind of person that there is. And the inversion of the flame mythology with the ice mythology, that just made sense to me. I also love the sound design. Ethan Hawke's menacing performance, filtered through the interference of an old payphone. I feel like I'm hearing a ghost calling from hell. It's about halfway through the movie when the grabber actually appears, and we find out the premise. The grabber has crawled up from hell for revenge. We learn that Gwen's dreams can interact with her. She steps in blood in a nightmare and wakes up with a wet sock. A burning dead boy grabs her arm and she wakes up with burns. The grabber can work with that. He's gonna kill her to hurt Finney. It's Nightmare on Elm Street, which is not inherently a bad thing. I'm all for filmmakers borrowing good ideas to tell new stories. And anyway, other than the basic conceit of hurting someone in their dreams and a couple of direct visual homages, the story diverges quite a bit from Elm Street. I do think the movie maybe takes a tad too long to introduce stakes. For almost the first hour, there's no tangible threat. Gwen is having some dreams, but there's no urgency around them. No indication harm is coming her way, or there's someone that needs to be saved. They're really just clues pointing to already dead kids. So the dreams come off as just a delivery mechanism for clues in a murder mystery we have no reason to care about, at least not yet. And to the extent we do care, what is the mystery exactly? Who killed those kids? Well, the movie is called The Black Phone 2, so I'm guessing it was the grabber. Okay, but what did he do with their bodies? They're under the ice. What? How'd you know that? What is this sorcery? Well, they're under the ice in all of her dreams. It's kind of obvious. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. In the first Black Phone, Finney is kidnapped less than half an hour into the runtime, and Robin is taken even sooner. I don't mind a slower pace when it's in service of something, and in Black Phone 2, a lot of that time is spent on character study. Thames and McGraw are up to the challenge. I love the characters, and even without the supernatural, I enjoyed watching them try to find a way forward after what happened. But when we aren't in those more grounded scenes, when we're dealing with dreams and the supernatural, I felt a little like the movie didn't give me enough reason to care. But once A Nightmare on Grabber Street kicks in, I'm on board for the character stuff and the supernatural stuff. In terms of visuals, this movie definitely borrows Tina's death scene from the first Nightmare movie. The oh my god moment where she actually levitates, because as the grabber reveals why he's come, he attacks Gwen. Ernesto and the others arrive just in time to watch as he tries tossing her into the oven. He's invisible to them, but her floating, sleeping body is hard to miss. Together they manage to save her and wake her up. Talking to Mondo and Mustang, they piece it all together. The grabber worked here in maintenance before he became the grabber. His first victims were the boys Gwen has been dreaming about. The letters they scratched, WBH, were clues pointing to the grabber's old nickname, Wild Bill, named after Wild Bill Hickok. He wore his maintenance belt like a gunslinger. Am I the only one who found it funny when Mondo is giving his impassioned speech about how the kids' parents are owed answers? So he's been out there searching for their bodies every day, weather permitting. Like he felt the need to tack that on, weather permitting, as if anyone is there questioning the veracity of his statements. Oh really? You've been searching for their bodies every day? You're telling me if the worst blizzard in the world struck, and you'd literally die if you stepped outside, you'd still go out there and look? Well, no, I guess not. Okay, so what you meant to say is that you're going to look for their bodies every day, weather permitting. Since the kids' bodies were never found and their spirits are not at rest, the grabber has been drawing power from their fear. So to stop him, they have to find the bodies, which Gwen knows from her dreams are under the frozen lake. The night before they prepare to search out those bodies, Mondo gives Finney a pep talk about dealing with his anger by facing his fears and letting go of what happened to him. Mondo, played by Demian Bashir. If you're a fan of the Conjuring verse, you might recognize him as Father Burke from The Nun. This scene strays a little melodramatic, something tempered by great performances, though it does make me wish the movie focused a little more on Finney. Part of the reason I call the scene melodramatic is that we don't get a lot of little scenes where we see how the trauma is impacting Finney's life. We only get these big moments, like him beating up a kid in the opening scene, or Gwen will tell us he doesn't have any friends, but we don't actually witness a lot of that isolation. It feels like the movie is only tangentially about him dealing with the fallout of his captivity, so we're only seeing the important snippets, the dramatic moments, which, without the connective tissue in between, feel melodramatic. On top of that, the fact that it's coming from this Mondo character, who doesn't mean a whole lot to these characters, and as a result, doesn't mean a whole lot to us. Another night means more sleep and more nightmares, so Finney and Ernesto will take turns watching Gwen to wake her if anything goes wrong. What if they can't wake her up? Finney has an answer. Then fight back. They're your dreams, aren't they? Sure enough, more dreams. This time of her mother. She sees that her mother had a dream about a missing kid, the first one he took in their area. She sees Wild Bill, and when her mother wakes, she heads to his home and spots the kid in his basement. Except Bill also spots her. The current Bill, the one who has come from hell, appears in her dream and shows Gwen what happened next. Her mother did not take her own life. The grabber killed her and made it look that way. He was just getting rid of a witness. I have mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, McGraw and Davies act the hell out of this scene, so it lands for me with the emotional impact Derrickson hoped for. On the other hand, part of what I love about the first movie is how unflinching it is. Gwen's story is all about inheriting something from a mother who isn't there, something special. Not only is her mother not there, but that something special is what killed her. It feels like a little too much wish fulfillment to say, never mind, that psychic ability won't kill you because it didn't kill your mother. It was a bad guy who did it. And that's in a movie that already has a lot of wish fulfillment. The entire climax hinges on the idea that facing your traumatic past means punching it in the face, and it's on top of a pile of retcons. Actually, the grabber got his start at the camp where your mother worked, and she dreamed about him years before Gwen. This stuff works best when the fantastical is introduced into a grounded world, and I think we got a lot more of that in the first movie. After the revelation, time for the grabber to finish the job and kill Gwen. He hits her with the axe, and Ernesto sees the gash appear on her sleeping body. He and Finney do their best to wake her, while she learns just how powerful the grabber is. It isn't just her that he can hurt. Mondo is looking for the bodies of those boys, and the grabber knocks him into the ice. This is one place where the Freddy Krueger comparisons enhance the movie. They set certain expectations. He can kill you in your sleep. But here, in a surprise twist, he can apparently kill others in your sleep too. I think the idea is that, especially near the bodies of his victims, the grabber has more power. That's why here, on the ice, he's able to attack the others, not just Gwen. It was definitely an oh crap moment for me when the grabber suddenly slides behind Mondo and starts hitting the ice with his own axe, and a great preview of the visual feast ahead. Battle on the blue ice with an ice skating ghoul from hell. With Mondo in the icy water, the grabber returns to Gwen. He puts a cord around her neck and spins her like a top, spraying the inside of that phone booth in her blood. When Finn realizes she won't wake up, he opts for plan B. Remind her to fight back. It's her dream. She sends the grabber flying and wakes herself up. Honestly, the stakes rose for me when Mondo fell on the ice. Then they crashed back down to Earth a few seconds later, when Gwen proved her power over the grabber. It's obviously a difficult thing to convey, the mental power it takes to wrestle control of a dream from a demon, but I think I wanted something more than, you gotta fight back. Okay, magic dream powers. They managed to get Mondo out of the ice. He's saved along with the body of one of the boys. 1 down, 2 to go. That night, Gwen and Finney's dad shows up to take them home. Gwen refuses. They have to stay and fight. That leads to another big emotional confrontation. Gwen telling Finney he needs to stop numbing his pain with dope, telling her dad what really happened with Mom, forcing him to confront the fact that her dreams are not just dreams, and that what happened wasn't his fault. Once again, the acting sells it all for me, but it's along similar melodramatic lines as before, where the deeper issues don't need to be excavated through a messy, complex process, because Gwen can just spell them out for you. The next morning, they commence their search for the other 2 kids, and Gwen falls asleep. So it begins, the final climactic battle, where they realize if the grabber can hurt you, you can hurt him, where the grabber wears ice skates made out of ice. My theater burst out laughing at the sight of those skates. I think it depends on how emotionally bought in you are at this point. If it all strayed too melodramatic, you might laugh. If it straddled the line and you got invested like me, the ice skates just mean the grabber gets to you faster, and watching him skate out of the fog was a visually arresting image. That's how I found the entire battle, all staged in this icy blue environment, watching Finney attack an invisible but physical presence, watching Gwen's invisible half assisting from the dream world, seeing the grabber's new look when he rips off the bottom half of his mask, and flesh along with it, making him look more undead than ever. Like that mask wasn't a mask, but in hell, it becomes his true face. Cutting back and forth between the dream and reality, overlapping the same location. We've seen this sort of thing before, but not typically in the context of such a kinetic scene and so many moving parts. One minor quibble. Kenneth and Barbara are mainly present in the movie as comic relief. They're judgy religious types, put off by cursing and all this demonic stuff. It felt weird in the climactic battle. They just kind of stand there, getting beaten and bruised, bleeding more than anyone else in the scene, like the movie is punishing them and lingering on it. It felt oddly mean-spirited. No one ever checks on them or attempts to help, and it's emblematic of the larger issue. These two, along with Mondo and Mustang, are paper-thin characters, which only stands out thanks to the isolated location, which puts a magnifying glass on this small cast of supporting characters. In the end, they find the bodies, the kids are put to rest, Gwen puts an axe in the grabber's face, and Finney pushes him into an icy grave. Finally, that payphone rings one more time. Not for Finney, but for Gwen. It's her mom calling, and she doesn't have much time. Why doesn't she have much time? Why is heaven like a prison where you make a call and the guard's like, wrap it up, lady, you got 5 minutes? Anyway, it is a beautiful call. I miss you. You did a great job. And your ability is not a curse. Also, tell Finney that Robin says hi. Talking to her mom on the phone reminds me how unnecessary the earlier phone calls were. It felt like it was setting up this interesting puzzle. Her mom had dreams of boys writing numbers. She has dreams of boys writing letters. But both halves are wholly unnecessary. Once Finney sees the photo of Wild Bill, they know the grabber is the one who killed them. They didn't need the dream of the WBH scratched into the ice. Her dreams of the boys under ice also tell her that's where they'll find the bodies. So the call from mom, just an extra piece in an already completed puzzle. So that's pretty much where it wraps up. I think there are two major obstacles people bump into with this movie. The first hour especially can feel slow, with no looming threat, and a mystery that doesn't exactly demand your investment, at least not at first. And the dramatic scenes, which risk straying melodramatic. For me personally, despite some of that messiness, I quite enjoyed the movie. I really appreciated how, unlike a lot of horror sequels, this one deals frankly with the aftermath of experiencing the horror of that first movie. That got me really invested in Finney and Gwen. So invested that honestly, I wouldn't mind revisiting them again if Hill, Derrickson, or Cargill came up with another pitch. Hell, they could even leave the grabber behind and have Gwen chase after another ghoul with her abilities. Make the Black Phone verse the new Conjuring verse, and I will shut up now.
Month of Terror continues tomorrow with Silent Hill.